Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum all, and welcome to this new episode in the CILE series on Islam and biomedical ethics. In this new episode, we speak about, as we promised in the previous episode, we speak about the arguments introduced by the religious scholars who argued that organ transplantation and organ donation are, ethically speaking, acceptable from an Islamic perspective. To start with, this group in the 50s and 60s didn't have the strongest voice, as we mentioned before. After the introduction of the immunosuppressive drugs and the anti-rejection drugs, when the success rate of organ transplantations dramatically increased, when the understanding of the very nature of organ transplantation became more and more understandable, and more information become accessible to the religious scholars, the situation differed, and we have seen a shift. Nowadays we have at least hundreds of fatwas issued not only by individual religious scholars in different Muslim countries, but also fatwas issued by collective Islamic institutions like the Islamic Fiqh Academy in Mecca, the International Islamic Fiqh Academy in Jeddah, the Islamic Organization for Medical Sciences in Kuwait. All these collective institutions have issued fatwas and resolutions and have organized meetings combining between both religious scholars and biomedical scientists discussing this issue, and they came to conclusions in favor of the acceptability of organ transplantation from an Islamic ethical perspective. So they are gaining by time more and more ground from the other group, I mean those who have opposed organ transplantation. In the previous episode, we spoke about how they introduced counter-arguments for the points and arguments mentioned by those who opposed organ transplantation. In this episode, we speak about their own arguments. Why is organ transplantation or organ donation is ethically speaking acceptable and can be endorsed from an Islamic perspective. The main thing they have introduced here, and it's more or less an original argument from their side. They said, first of all, we have to understand what is organ transplantation, how to approach it from an Islamic perspective, and how to perceive it, how to develop the right perception, at-tasawwur al-sahih, or in the terminology of Islamic legal theory, how to achieve tahqiq al-manat, how to have the right perception for the very nature of this medical intervention. They said it is not mutilation or violation for the sanctity of the human body. It is not a violation for the perception that, for the principle that God is the owner of human body, but actually it is an innovative type of medical treatment. Usually, throughout history, they said, we treat the human body by using material coming from the nature. We use herbs, we use drugs, etc., to repair what is going wrong in the human body. But by the introduction of human transplantation, we use organs from a human body to treat another human body, which is something unique. And that's why, according to them, religious scholars who opposed organ transplantation missed this right perception. So they said, once we approach organ transplantation as medical treatment that saves the life of someone or considerably increase his or her quality of life, we will come to a completely different conclusion from an Islamic ethical perspective compared to the understanding that we see human that organ transplantation is cutting into the human body, and it's nothing but mutilation and violation of the bodily integrity. That would be completely different. Interestingly enough, one of the religious scholars who issued one of the earliest fatwas on organ transplantation in Islamic history, he touched this point in contemporary Islamic history. He is Sheikh Dr Mohammed Ghaly from Saudi Arabia, who died 1955. So his fatwa should be before this year, before this date, 1955. Sheikh Dr Mohammed Ghaly, he was asked about the ruling of Islamic jurisprudence or the perspective of Islam on organ transplantation. And he said that first and foremost, the jurist must have the right perception, must have al-tasawwur al-sahih of such new issues and novel questions. If we don't have the right perception, then we will surely come to a wrong conclusion. And he said to have a right perception for such sophisticated and complicated issues, we have to consult medicine. So the medical context here is extremely important. So he said that modern medicine in such issues can make the religious scholar change his mind about specific issues because the perception of these issues did change. He means by this, we, religious scholars, he means, used to approach cutting into the human body as mutilation because in principle this was usually the case. But now we understand from modern medicine that cutting into the human body can be done for completely different objectives and for completely different reasons. Cutting into the human body can be for the objective of saving the life of this person or saving the life of someone else to which the donated organ will be transferred, etc. So when we change this perception from cutting into the human body for the sake of mutilation to cutting into the human body for the sake of medical treatment or saving the life of someone else, then the whole thing will change. And he himself came to the conclusion that organ transplantation shouldn't be problematic from an Islamic ethical perspective based on this newly developed right perception according to his understanding. So first of all, it is like what some call it, gift of life, life-saving medical treatment, or medical treatment that considerably improves the quality of life for a sick person. Also, some religious scholars, like for instance Sheikh al-Qaradawi in the modern time, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, he said that organ transplantation is an act of charity, a noble act of charity, sadaqah. According to him, the scope of sadaqah, of this Islamic concept, charity, is very broad. Charity, in the understanding of the general public, is only about money, that you give money to help people. He says that charity is much broader than only money. When we check some statements attributed to the Prophet of Islam, we come to this conclusion. For instance, the Prophet of Islam says giving smile to someone is a charity. وَتَبَسُّمُكَ فِي وَجْهِ أَخِيكَ صَدَقَةٌ. So giving a smile is a charity. Taking away garbage from a main road is a charity. Helping, of course, the poor and destitute is also a charity. So he says a charity is being beneficial to human beings. And according to him, donating an organ to someone in order to save his life or improve the quality of his or her life, it is a great charity in this sense. So medical treatment, by approaching it or by perceiving it as medical treatment, by perceiving it as an act of charity, noble act of charity, which is strongly encouraged by Islam, would completely change the perception and thus also the conclusion about organ transplantation from an Islamic perspective. That is mainly one of the innovative arguments that the group of of the proponents of organ transplantation have introduced. Thank you so much for listening, and hope to see you soon in a new episode on Islam and biomedical ethics. Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.